A 45-year-old hotel empire founder walked into her own luxury hotel in Chicago and was told they were fully booked. She didn't argue or flash her ID. Instead, she made one brief phone call and stepped aside. Within minutes, everything changed. The staff had no idea who they'd just denied or what was coming next. Morgan Reynolds entered the gleaming lobby of the Westbrook Plaza in downtown Chicago. Her shoulders relaxed despite the 14-hour flight from Singapore. The marble floors reflected the chandelier light as she approached the front desk, canvas weekend bag slung over one shoulder. At 45, Morgan had built the Reynolds collection from nothing, 17 luxury hotels across 3 continents. Tonight, she just won a quiet room before tomorrow's surprise board meeting. Her navy slacks and cream blouse were quality, but understated. No designer logos, no flashy jewelry. Her natural hair was pulled back in a simple bun, and her minimal makeup highlighted her warm brown skin. She looked like any other business traveler, not the woman whose signature was on every employee's paycheck. Behind the reception desk, a young woman with platinum blonde hair and bright pink nails tapped at her keyboard. Her name tag read Jessica. She glanced up with a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Checking in?" Jessica asked, her tone already suggesting the answer would be disappointing. "Yes, under Reynolds." Morgan Reynolds. Morgan's voice was soft but clear. Jessica's fingers moved across the keyboard, then stopped. "I don't see any reservation under that name." "That's fine," Morgan replied. "There should be an executive suite always held for me." Jessica's smile tightened. "Ma'am, we're fully booked tonight. Every room. It's the International Trade Conference." Her tone shifted slightly, more dismissive now. "You'd need a confirmed reservation to stay here." Morgan glanced past Jessica to the wall, where the Reynolds Collection logo gleamed in polished brass. Her name wasn't just on a reservation. It was on the building. "I understand," Morgan said quietly, "but I'm not just any guest. I own this hotel." Jessica blinked twice, her smile morphing into a skeptical smirk. "You own the Westbrook Plaza?" Her tone made it clear she didn't believe a word. Morgan nodded calmly. "I own the entire Reynolds collection, this hotel included." Jessica's pink nails tapped nervously against the marble counter. "One moment, please." She reached for the desk phone. "I need to call my manager." Across the lobby, a couple in business attire glanced over. A man sitting near the fireplace tilted his head, watching the interaction unfold. Morgan felt a familiar weight settle in her chest, that quiet burden of being questioned, of having to prove herself yet again. Within minutes, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a navy blazer emerged from a side door. His badge read, Assistant Manager Daniel Weber. "Good evening," he said with forced cheerfulness. "Is there an issue with your reservation?" Jessica leaned forward. "She says she owns a hotel," she whispered, though not quietly enough. Daniel's smile faltered. He studied Morgan's simple attire, her understated presence. "Ma'am, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding," Morgan interrupted gently. "I'm Morgan Reynolds, founder and CEO of the Reynolds Collection. You should have a permanent suite reserved under the executive block." Daniel adjusted his glasses nervously. "Let me verify some information." He turned toward the back office, muttering something into his radio. Morgan stood perfectly still. She didn't fidget or raise her voice. But she noticed a subtle shift in the lobby's atmosphere. A security guard had positioned himself near the elevators. Another staff member hovered by the concierge desk, watching. They were preparing for trouble. From her, Morgan could have pulled out her ID. She could have shown them the company profile on her phone, or called any of the executives who would verify her identity instantly. Instead, she took 3 steps back from the desk, pulled out her phone, and made one call. "This is Morgan Reynolds," she said quietly into phone. "I'm at the Westbrook Plaza in Chicago. I've been denied access to my own property. Please resolve this immediately." She ended the call and waited. Morgan moved to a quiet corner of the lobby, positioning herself near a marble column. She didn't pace or check her watch repeatedly. She simply waited, observing the subtle dance unfolding around her. At the front desk, Jessica was frantically typing, occasionally glancing up at Morgan with growing unease. Daniel had disappeared into the back office. But through the glass partition, Morgan could see him on the phone, his free hand gesturing anxiously. The security guard by the elevators hadn't moved, but his posture had changed, less relaxed, more alert. 3 guests sitting in the lounge area whispered behind their coffee cups, stealing glances in her direction. Morgan felt a familiar heaviness. This wasn't the first time she'd been dismissed based on appearances. 20 years ago, as a junior hospitality consultant in Boston, she'd been mistaken for a housekeeper in the very hotel she was auditing. 15 years ago, as a rising executive, she'd been asked to fetch coffee during her own presentation. 5 years ago, even after acquiring her 10th property, an investor had asked to speak with the actual owner during a site visit. The pattern was exhausting, but no longer surprising. She noticed Jessica discreetly checking her phone under the desk, likely searching Morgan's name. The realization would come soon enough. The lobby's atmosphere had shifted. The casual buzz of conversation had dimmed. People were watching without watching, curious about the quiet standoff between this unassuming woman and the hotel staff. Then the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. 2 people emerged, a tall woman in a crisp charcoal suit and a man with salt and pepper hair carrying a tablet. Their purposeful stride and immediate scan of the lobby told Morgan everything she needed to know. Regional Director Elaine Winters and Operations Manager James Chun had received her call. The real response was about to begin. Elaine spotted Morgan immediately. Her professional composure cracked for just a moment, eyes widening in recognition and alarm. "Ms. Reynolds," she called, striding across the lobby. "I just got the call. I can't believe—" She stopped herself, taking a breath. "We are profoundly sorry for this misunderstanding." James was already at the front desk, tablet in hand, speaking in hushed but urgent tones to Jessica, whose face had drained of color. Daniel had reappeared, looking like he might be sick. "The presidential suite is being prepared as we speak," Elaine continued, her voice steady but her eyes betraying panic. "James is arranging for your usual amenities. Your driver will be ready tomorrow morning for the board meeting." Again, I cannot express how deeply. Morgan raised her hand slightly, stopping Elaine mid-sentence. "The executive suite will be fine. I don't need special treatment, just the room that should have been ready." Elaine nodded quickly. "Of course. It's being prepared now. May I escort you personally?" At the desk, Jessica was frantically typing, her pink nails now trembling slightly. Daniel was apologizing repeatedly to James, who looked grim. Morgan observed the ripple effect of her identity spreading through the lobby. The security guard had vanished. Other staff members suddenly appeared, straightening furniture and looking busy. Guests who had been watching now pretended they hadn't been. As Morgan followed Elaine to the elevator, she felt the weight of eyes on her back. Not with suspicion now, but with the uncomfortable realization of a mistake made. In the elevator, Elaine spoke softly. "Ms. Reynolds, I want you to know we'll be conducting a full review of front desk protocols. This is completely unacceptable." Morgan nodded. "I'd like a meeting tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. with you, James, Daniel, and Jessica." "Absolutely," Elaine replied, relief evident in her voice that Morgan wasn't demanding immediate terminations. The executive suite was immaculate. Fresh flowers, a fruit basket, bottled water. Morgan set her bag down and walked to the window overlooking Chicago's skyline. She didn't feel victorious, just tired of having to prove herself in spaces she had created. At precisely 6:55 a.m., Morgan stepped out of the elevator into the lobby. She wore a tailored charcoal suit, subtle pearl earrings, and low heels that clicked authoritatively against the marble floor. This wasn't Morgan, the tired traveler. This was Morgan Reynolds, CEO. The morning staff straightened as she passed. Word had spread overnight. The same lobby that had questioned her presence now parted before her like water. The small conference room off the main lobby was already occupied. Elaine sat with perfect posture, a folder of documents before her. James stood by the window, tablet in hand. Daniel fidgeted with his tie, eyes downcast. Jessica sat stiffly in a corner chair, her usual bright makeup subdued, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Morgan entered without knocking. No one spoke as she took her seat at the head of the table. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I'd like to discuss what happened yesterday, but more importantly, what happens next." Elaine began with a prepared statement about disciplinary actions and policy changes, but Morgan raised her hand. "I'm not here for apologies or terminations," she said. "I'm here for understanding and improvement." She turned to Daniel. "Tell me, when a guest claims to be someone important, what's your protocol?" Daniel swallowed hard. "We're supposed to verify politely, check our VIP list, and when in doubt, escalate to management without confrontation." "And was that followed yesterday?" "No, ma'am," he admitted. "We assumed incorrectly." Morgan nodded, then addressed the room. "Starting today, every Reynolds property will implement enhanced recognition training, not just for VIPs, but for treating every guest with equal dignity regardless of appearance." She outlined specific changes: blind service audits, revised escalation protocols, and mandatory quarterly refreshers on unconscious bias. "This isn't about punishing mistakes," Morgan continued. "It's about preventing repetition. Our guests come in all colors, dress in all styles, and speak with all accents. They all deserve the same respect." Jessica hadn't spoken a word, her eyes fixed on the table. Morgan knew there was one more conversation needed, but not in this room, with all these witnesses. "Implementation begins today," Morgan concluded. "I'll be checking back personally in 30 days. Morgan found Jessica in the staff break room an hour later. The young woman sat alone, staring at her untouched coffee, her usual confidence deflated. "May I join you?" Morgan asked. Jessica startled, nearly knocking over a cup. "Ms. Reynolds?" "Yes, of course." Morgan sat across from her. "Have you ever worked somewhere you felt invisible?" The question caught Jessica off guard. She hesitated, then nodded. "My first job. Retail. Customers would walk right past me to ask the male employees questions, even when I was standing right there." "How did that feel?" "Awful," Jessica admitted. "Like I didn't matter." Morgan nodded. "That feeling of being dismissed, overlooked, judged before you speak. I know it well. I felt it my entire career." Jessica looked up, confusion in her eyes. "But you own all this." "I do now, but I started where you are. Front desk, night shifts, being mistaken for housekeeping." Morgan leaned forward. "The difference is, I shouldn't still be experiencing it in my own hotel." Understanding dawned on Jessica's face. "I made assumptions based on how you looked." "We all make assumptions," Morgan said gently. "The question is, what do we learn when they're wrong?" Jessica met her gaze directly for the first time. "I'm truly sorry." "I know," Morgan replied. "Now, what will you do differently tomorrow?" As Morgan's car pulled away from the Westbrook Plaza, she opened her purse to find a handwritten note slipped under her door. "Thank you for the lesson I needed, not the one I feared. Jessica," she smiled slightly, tucking it away. "This wasn't about one receptionist or one hotel. It was about changing perceptions, one interaction at a time. For anyone who's ever been underestimated or made invisible, your worth isn't determined by others' recognition. Stand your ground quietly. Let them adjust their vision. Your presence alone can change everything." If this story resonated with you, share a time you had to stand your ground in the comments below. Have you ever been in Morgan's position or Jessica's? Subscribe for more stories about dignity, power, and the quiet strength it takes to change minds without raising your voice.